distinguished guests, colleagues, students, and friends, welcome. I'm Kai-Feng Yang, the Dean of the School of Public Affairs and Administration at Rutgers Newark. It is my profound honor to welcome you to this pivotal roundtable hosted by our school, a beacon of excellence and the #1 public affairs program in the region. Our school prides itself on its local roots and global reach, fostering interdisciplinary perspectives that are so essential in today's interconnected world. We gather here not just as individuals, but as citizens and visionaries committed to the public good. Our world-class faculty and unwavering commitment to public service and social equity have set the stage for today's dialogue. We are united by a common purpose to explore the challenges of leading large cities in an era marked by rapid change and complexity. The question before us is critical. How can public leaders demonstrate strong and visionary leadership in this turbulent social and political climate? How can we harness new technologies and forge innovative partnerships to advance social equity and welfare? Our cities are the lifeblood of civilization. And as leaders, you are the architects of their future. The decisions made within the walls of governance can rip outwards, touching every life and shaping society for generations to come. It is through collaboration, both within our communities and with academic institutions like ours, that we can transform challenges into opportunities for growth and prosperity. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Michael Dillard, the Assistant Teaching Professor and BA Program Director of our school, for his delegation in organizing and moderating this event. His efforts underscore the vital connection between public affairs education and practical governance. As we embark on today's discussions, let us be guided by the principles of equity, inclusivity, and foresight. Together, we can build resilient cities that not only withstand the test of time, but also serve as pillars of hope and progress. Thank you for your attendance and your commitment to public service. Let the roundtable commence. Michael.
Thanks so much, Kai Fangden. I hope all is well. I just first wanted, before we get started with today's panel discussion, I wanted to actually, take a moment to thank each of the mayor's confidential aides, as well as the administrative staff over in Irvington. We could not have done this without all of your help and support. I mean, just from the countless calls, text messages, and so forth, the back and forth email communications, but you made this happen. And just to be honest with you, to get 5 officials on one call at the same time, again, I really appreciate everyone's help with that. I also want to extend out a thanks to my SPAA colleagues, particularly Ginger Swiston, our communications person, for putting a flyer together and ongoing communication efforts of promoting the event, as well as, and now I can overall breathe a little bit about this in terms of the technology, because as we know, it has a mind of its own, but Josh Ritchie for, making sure that everything ran smoothly as related to this webinar and testing everything out. Today's conversation is important for many reasons. Obviously, we have a 2024 presidential election coming up, and there's so much talk as it relates to larger national issues. But how much time are we focusing on as it relates to local issues within our own communities, within our own backyards, and so forth? Today's conversation is important to really get a chance to understand how each of our dynamic panel got to where they are. What was their career trajectory? What were some of their challenges along the way? This is not the first time that we've had such an important conversation as this. In fact, here at SPAA, we've been doing this for a number of years. I think back in terms of a time frame where we actually had my Leadership for the Service Professions class, where we held a live televised class session at Newark City Hall, which was a great opportunity for our students to meet with Newark Mayor Baraka, as well as then Newark City Council President Mildred Crump, as well as a number of department heads to really get a chance to see exactly what goes on behind the scenes regarding local government and so forth. But it doesn't just stop there. We've also had the opportunity to meet with last year, Mayor of Orange, Dwayne, where he talked to students about, his career trajectory, how he got to where he is. He offered words of encouragement as related to career advice. In fact, extending out an opportunity to students to intern at his office. It doesn't stop just there. Mayor over in East Orange, Ted Green, has also assisted SPAA on numerous occasions. Students have had the opportunity to personally interview him, to learn behind the scenes, his leadership style, how he's able to bring forth staff members in terms of collective ideas and thought processes and so forth. More importantly, though, today's event serves as an opportunity for our students to connect with local leaders. Today's session is just one of many, as I said, opportunities to be able to connect. So in terms of today's session, because obviously it's so brief and we've got so many questions, though we know we won't be able to accomplish all of the dynamic questions that we have for you. I have asked for each panel member to join me during the fall semester for a one-on-one power hour session where students will have the opportunity to be able to talk with each local leader, to learn a little bit more about them. So in terms of today's session, obviously I could spend about an hour or so reading over your bios and going over all of your long list of achievements, but I won't do that for sake of time. I'd rather have each of you talk a little bit about yourself in terms of what led to this pivotal moment in your own life. How did you become the mayor? How did you become the city township administrator for your individual cities? What got you to this point, not only educationally, your career path overall? What motivated you to this overall point? I want to start with Mayor of Hillside, Mayor Vertreese.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, my fellow mayors, and thank you so much, Professor Dillard, as well as your students for giving us their time and energy to talk about how we got involved in politics and in this arena of government. I like to remind people all the time that, there's the campaign and then there's governing. So yes, I had to campaign, but my interest in politics actually is kind of spurned in my household. Both of my mother and my father are involved in some sort of politics. Many of the mayors here knew my mother. Many of the mayors here knew my mother in her time in East Orange. I spent plenty of time in Orange, and my father was a police officer and was heavily involved in the Bronze Shields. So a lot of the conversations regarding the community, things that were impacting the community, the closure of hospitals, those were the conversations that were at my dinner table. Was it something I was like, oh, I'm going to wake up one day and become mayor? But I knew that I had to be involved in my community. So I always emerged as a leader, no matter what job or position that I had. So, when I was a paralegal, I was one of the lead paralegals. I was on the appellate team. When I was on the teacher, I was one of the head teachers. I was an AP US teacher. And it was just something that I always wanted to do. It was just like steer my community and be involved. And so I joined Local 68 and I was enrolled in what was called Labor Candidate School. And this is where we actually train union leaders to run for office. And so 6 months after graduating from that program, I was on school board. And about 2 years after that, became the president of school board. And then after that, ran for mayor and won.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mayor. Okay, on to City of Newark, Mayor Baraka.
Good afternoon, folks. I actually ran for office for 16 years before I actually run anything. So I started off in '94 as a elementary school teacher at Warren Street School, raised $10,000 and, had a host of community folks and college students and some of my students from the schools. One of them is now the councilwoman in the city of Newark now as the council president. But, we basically did community activist work in the city for some time, ran for office many, many times in that process, didn't win. But, eventually ran for councilman of the South Ward and won that seat in 2010. Then after that, I ran for mayor in 2014 when Cory Booker vacated his seat. By God's grace, we won. I think by that time, all those times losing, we got a little skill on how not to lose, right? So that has been very important for me, helping me organize and build my own team. And that's one thing that running for office that many times did for me, is help me build my own organization and raise my own dollars. So I didn't have to really depend on many other people to do that, because I built an organization in all those years around, learning of how to run for office over and over again.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. Okay, let's head over to Irvington.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mayors, Rutgers administration, students, and guests. I want to thank you for having Irvington on this call today. Briefly for me, I actually started out in education as well. I was a high school teacher in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. While I was there, I got involved with political organizing for Mayor John Street, who won office in Philadelphia during my time in college. And that got me interested in politics. It led to me going into law, so I attended Rutgers Law School in Newark. I eventually graduated, and from being an attorney, I moved into administration for a school district, and from administration for a school district, I then moved into administration for a township when I was appointed as a business administrator for the township of Irvington by Mayor Tony Voss.
Thanks so much. East Orange Mayor Ted Green.
Yes, thank you. I have to blame my grandparents, my grandmother and grandfather, along with my mother and father, who I watched at a very young age. They always have been involved in the church on Mars Avenue in Newark. That's what I basically learned how to work with people. They got me up on Saturday mornings, and I had to go out when they used to have the rummer sales and giving people clothes. And my grandmother was very, very adamant about serving people. I watched my grandfather, how he nurtured the community. My father was a Newark school teacher, Dayton Street School, and watched my mother, how kids in the neighborhood kind of galvanized around our home, and they became that village. And I guess that whole generation of my family helping the community was instilled in me. My dad always used to say to us, even if we walked down the street and we saw a piece of paper, he would make us pick it up. And I used to ask him why. He said, because if you live in this community, then you have a responsibility. So he never, ever deviated from allowing us to know that we have a responsibility in the community. Unfortunately, I'm the only member in my family got involved in politics. I started off as a district leader, really didn't know what I was doing, but I know one thing I wanted to do is get involved in the community. Got involved when I came back from Cheney University and really dug my feet into friends, a couple of my friends and I said, look, man, we got to be a part of the community, helping. Got with being a district leader, and I think that was back in 86, 87 when I came from Cheney University. And my father had a martial arts school here, so we was always involved in the community. He was always teaching and tutoring kids, and again, always telling me, you have to make sure you get involved in the community. So I chose to get involved, got involved. A gentleman named Ron Saladin, who was my mentor, really got me involved in politics. I knew anything about politics. I didn't know anything. And I used to go give out flyers, and here I am today. I got elected in 2005 as a councilman in my ward. I beat an incumbent, and as the mayor said, I didn't have much money, but we beat a guy that was very known, and we just went out there and did what we had to do as young people, knocked on doors. In 2017, 2018, I got elected as the mayor here in the city of East Orange, and I was the first mayor to win by 99.2% of the vote. But we had to work, that didn't come easy. We did what we had to do in the community, working with the kids. And being a martial arts teacher, also generations of kids that was involved in that karate school was able to vote. So we made sure folks went out and voted, but also generally I just stayed lockstep, doing the things in the community that I need to do and working with people, and we're still doing it, you know. So I'm on my second term, and I'm very uh, grateful for that. And you know, it's all about just working hard and dedicating your time. And you have to be true to what you're doing in your heart, that you believe in your community. So I'm here.
Thanks so much, Mayor Green. And over to the Orange, Mayor Warren.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to your institution and my colleagues for attending this important session, because we have to start to lay the groundwork for future leadership. I am from the city of Newark, born and raised, and ran for a number of offices there. At some point, my wife found a house that she wanted to buy in Orange, and we moved there with our 2 children. And given the status of development, they thought I had some talent, and I ran and won for office. But my background comes from being a lawyer and advising public officers. My uncle served 24 years in the assembly, and I watched his generation together with Raz's dad, with Dahlia's dad, with the mentor of Ted Green. All that generation, a civil rights generation, really taught us organizing, taught us how to look at the law and use it on behalf of our communities. And no money, knocked door to door, and won office just because we had the skills and qualifications and the tenacity to keep going in spite of the doors being locked in your face and you being discouraged. We just kept going. We won. And what we learned and what we put into use is that we didn't just win as mayors and administrators in our particular communities. We thought it not robbery to come together on policy, on issues, on fighting for our community as a collective. And so regionally, we've made a difference in our community because we came together and recognized our strength.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Mayor Warren. And so as we can see, a lot of grassroots efforts, right? You know, having that passion, you know, really a mayor at heart always. And number one, doing some of this important work as kids and growing up in your own communities and finding a way to give back. But as we can see here today, though, there were so many career pathways and trajectories of how each of our dynamic panel got to where they are overall today. City Administrator over in Irvington, Mr. Malik, I want to know a little bit more, if you can just educate the students in terms of exactly what is your role and responsibilities as a township administrator. You know, what's under your purview, if you just don't mind, you know, kind of, you know, discussing a little bit more in detail in terms of your responsibilities overall.
No issue at all. Mainly what the business administrator does is oversee the day-to-day operations. Our responsibility to the mayor is to carry out their goals and policies for their township. So here in Irvington, the mayor's mission is clean and safe. And so those are the things that we prioritize here in the township, and it's my responsibility to work with the directors that he appoints and the staff that works under the directors to ensure that that occurs, in addition to handling the remainder of the responsibilities that a town is responsible for at all times, whether it's the court or recreation, offering our seniors different programs. I work with all of the directors to ensure that the various programs and functions of the town carry out every single day, and we serve the residents and meet their needs where they are.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So I'm beginning to think a little about in terms of strategic planning. You know, obviously there's a lot of around strategic planning as it relates to major corporations, businesses, and so forth. But local governments are beginning to catch on to this idea of running local governments as a business as well. Where do you see your cities, your towns within the next 5 to 10 years or 15 years from now? What is the future for your city? I want to go on to Mayor Warren over in Orange.
The city is going to be a lot more diverse. It economically, racially, by way of gender specification, is going to be a different kind of place. And I think our schools are going to be better. I hope within that time to have a separate arts school. We were able to build a STEM school, but the arts play such a vital role in our community that we need to have a special school there as well. And I also see commerce coming. Given the level of development that we're performing in Orange, there will be commerce that attracts that kind of population. Our development is both market and affordable, so the economic mix will be there. But I think you're going to see a different, more transformed urban environment that will attract more young people as well, less cars as well, more public transportation. Those are the kinds of things that I see. Those are the ways that we're building the town now, and it's going to require that we look at how we tax differently. It's going to look at how we collect differently. It's going to look at how we have public spaces differently as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Over to Newark, Mayor Baraka.
Newark is on its way to becoming a 24-hour destination city. In fact, just with all of the development that's happening downtown, the building of the walking bridge like the High Line in New York City, connecting the train station to the arena and to Peter Francisco Park, the millions of square feet of development that's going to happen around there in all those parking lot spaces. We're talking about 1,000 residential units, as well as a commercial space, a new hotel, all of those things happening in that downtown, changing the center of gravity. So downtown is going to be a community. It'll be at least between 5,000 or 10,000 people living downtown, which forces us to change. We've already opened up a precinct down there. We're going to open up a fire station down there. So all of those things are going to affect what's happening in our city and bring more people. The city is already growing. We changed our zoning ordinances to allow more density on the main corridors throughout the neighborhoods, which will bring back those corridors. So, Newark was once known, you didn't have to go downtown to actually shop. You could shop on Springfield Avenue. You could shop on Chancellor Avenue. You could shop on Bergen Street. When folks left, the density left, those stores became abandoned. And you get a lower kind of quality of store. And people begin to shop outside of the city. And when they shop outside of the city, you get a leakage of millions of dollars that go into other neighboring towns that does not stay in your community. You have to get people to live in and around business in order for businesses to come. They need to see walking traffic. If there's no walking traffic, the businesses will not come to that community or to that neighborhood. So us creating opportunity for people to live downtown gives businesses the chance to come and survive there. And with the governor changing the liquor license opportunity, it would allow smaller, mid-sized businesses to be able to compete for liquor licenses in the city, which will help us grow that nightlife in a town at the same time. So changing the density of our zoning ordinances in the corridors, I think, is a major, major step, and allowing mid-sized developers to engage in developing, how homes and housing, 2 and 3 family housing, 3 and 4 family housing on these corridors will also be helpful. Change some of these businesses into residential spaces helps us as well. So we're talking about a city that's going to be growing in terms of people. The diversity is already there, so we're going to be growing. We already are growing. We're growing more, and economically kind of spreading out as well. We're getting Lionsgate coming through the city of Newark. The film studios will be here in the city of Newark as well. Mars Wrigley came back, opened up a beautiful headquarters downtown across from the Prudential Arena. So all these corporations and businesses are relocating back to or coming to the city of Newark, which is a great thing, which makes me believe that we're closer to our 24-hour destination than we even think.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. Mayor of Hillside, Vertreese.
So hello once again. I love talking about Hillside because we are this prime location right in between Newark, Irvington, and Elizabeth. However, because of a lot of messy politics, the township had struggled with economic development. So we are right now rebuilding our economic development in town. Our big project right now is a new brand new 21st century library. And that has so much more meaning behind it that I know we don't have time for today, but definitely creating more spaces in the township for people to actually commute. Like we talked about community, we don't talk about how we can commute. And I was recently asked what was one of my major challenges in Hillside, and I was like, it's mindset. These things don't happen overnight. We have boards that we need to fill. and we need the input from the community so that we're not making these changes without keeping them in mind. And when I talk about boards, people are like, well, what's a board? I'm like, yeah, the zoning board, and planning board, and library board. These are boards that are voluntary, but they're responsible for.
Mayor, you're coming in and out.
All right, it's a little choppy on our end, so move over to Ted Green.
Yes, yes, thank you. So look, you know, we in East Stones, we say it takes a village here in our community to grow our community. And East Stones is what we call that one city, one community. And what we're doing, we're wrapping our city around revitalization, right? East Orange was once man, did you want okay, I thought we was once that city called the bedroom community. And our city here is very diverse. We have every nationality here in the city of East Orange. You know, we have grown, you know, since I've been in office, we have seen our population grow a little bit, but also we are that one community that making sure that everybody is able to flourish through our community. We have over $2 billion in rehab right now going on Main Street of our corridors. We have over $500 million project that's going on right now, which is a two-phase project that we're very proud of, where we'll be putting commercial, residential, and retail, where we can enjoy our city in terms of the nightlife and entertainment, and people can go to boutiques, which we're proud of that because you haven't had that in the city of East Orange in a long time. We're wrapping our thoughts around renovating all our parks in East Orange and making sure people can enjoy green space and outdoor space, and making sure our young people have safe havens within the parks and things of that nature. We're wrapping our thought around job opportunities. Right now, we have major projects going on, and we're making sure that our community is part of these job opportunities and job training, and making sure they're getting apprenticeship programs. And wrap that around making sure that people who have lived in this community for 50 to 60 and 70 years are not being pushed out. You know, I think that all the mayors can attest to that. We are making sure that folks are able to live here, right? We're starting to see new people come into our community, which make us proud, but we also have people who was here and that are here that is generational families that we're making sure that they're able to stay in this community. We're working with our high schools here and making sure that our young people know that there's other opportunities other than going to college, right? Our MOET program is pushing young people towards trades, apprenticeship training, like I said earlier, HVAC, plumbing, drywall, making sure electrical, that there's other opportunity that's lucrative in our community. And we're working with our partners throughout the city and making sure young people are able to open up businesses here in our community, right? And making sure that whatever we do on the governmental side and the legislative side, that our young people want to come back to the community. So we're in the schools with the mayor's engagement team, where we got a group of young men who are volunteering Monday through Friday, where we're meeting with young people that has gotten involved in, you know, the gang culture, but now we're kind of like cultivating them to like, no, this is your community. You're the future of the community. So we got a lot going on here in the city of East Orange. We just had one of the major programs. We did a drone program, and that drone program was the first in the nation that we took young people who wanted to learn how to fly drones, and we brought this company in, and they did a fantastic job in terms of initiating a training program where over 25 young people and adults went through the program. Now they're certified, and that puts other people back on the market of job opportunities. So we are on that renaissance here in the city of East Orange, and we're working as a team, and we feel proud of what we're doing, but we're more proud of making sure that we collectively not only have a 5-year plan, but we have a 10-year plan, and making sure that we level out and making sure that we leave a platform even when I'm not here in the city of East Orange.
Absolutely. Well said. All about legacy, sir. Vertreese, we did not forget about you. I know it was a little bit choppy though. You're doing many things and on the road too, but that's what I love about it. The mayor's job is never done, right? But we're still happy to be able to have you here. So did you want to continue on with what you were saying, Mayor Vertreese?
Absolutely. I know I was talking about the importance of joining different boards and how people often don't know that they, as a volunteer, have that power and that voice to actually control what businesses come into town, how many businesses come into town, what kind of businesses come into town. That the mayor is not, the one-stop show. We are the leader, but everybody's input is important so that we are monitoring and adjusting to the needs, especially for the 21st century. So I'm a mom, so I wanted to be there that I wanted. So we are definitely developing in our rec center. We have a full day summer camp every year. We've partnered with Bluefield College. We were able to see our first scholar graduate with full ride there because of his partnership with the township. And in order to qualify for that scholarship, he had to be well-rounded. So he had to have decent grades, maybe not the top, but he had to have at least a 2.9, and he had to be involved in his community, and he had to be on an athletic team. So you had to hit all of those tiers in order to qualify for the scholarship, and we were proud to honor him at this last Black History Month for finishing and actually making good on that scholarship. So it's those things, reaching out to people and helping them understand how government can work, especially with our small businesses. If we don't know about you, sometimes we're unable to help you. So when people say, oh, I don't do politics and this and the other, they have no idea how many opportunities they're missing. So when I say mindset change, it's really getting people involved in understanding how government works so that as we are developing, as we are bringing these services to you, you are not left out and you are actually serviced.
Absolutely, well said. And over to Irvington, Business Administrator Malik, we want to know about, what's the future for Irvington? What does Irvington look like 5, 10 or so years from now?
So we really try to take a holistic approach to our community. Everyone's here of all ages and all diverse backgrounds, and so we have to find ways to service everyone. One of the main things that we're working on is our infrastructure. We have a large affordable housing project coming with a few $100 million in our East Ward. We're trying to develop our Springfield Avenue corridor as well in order to ensure that we have both a vibrant nightlife as they're trying to do in Newark, and we bring in more stores and businesses and provide residents with alternatives, because there are a lot of single-family homes, there are a lot of duplexes, but we're trying to move into condos as well and have that apartment feel where individuals commute in and out of Irvington to get to other places, including New York City. Irvington was previously a commuter city. I would say we have access to 78, the Garden State Parkway, and you can get through our town to go to a lot of places, but we want to give people reasons to stop and spend their time in Irvington, spend their dollars in Irvington. So it's important to us to develop our parking garage. We're looking to do a large project there where we put apartments above our parking garage and encourage people to utilize that and visit our downtown area. We also want to do something for the kids, so we're enhancing our parks. We received about $1.2 million in grants that we applied for in order to increase our green space and enhance our parks for the youth. Over in the school district, we've also worked with them. They opened up a new STEM school, so our students and our grade school residents, I like to call them, they can come here and learn and get an education that's on par with any other municipality, any other city, because we want to develop the talent that we have here in Irvington that's homegrown in order to encourage individuals to want to stay here through, working here, living here, and spending their time and dollars in our town. So we think that a holistic approach, and we also, working with some of our redevelopers, we built a new senior living facility, which is in our West Ward, and that was just completed last year. So our position is we want to touch everyone. We want to touch all ages, all diverse backgrounds, and keep our residents here where they can be born, they can grow up, and then they can take over for this administration once we move on.
Absolutely, well said. And so obviously, it sounds like a lot of community partnerships that you also have to develop along the way to be able to make that happen as it relates to the strategic planning that's going on in your individual cities, and what drives those folks to want to not only live in your communities or live in those cities and towns, but to work there, to play there, and so forth. And thinking about all audiences, all stakeholders in mind, which I love too. So that takes me on to another important question around community engagement. I think we all can agree that we are doing more with less in terms of resources, less in terms of overall fiscal challenges, financial, budgetary constraints, and so forth. Issues around, in terms of staffing and positions. And you find yourself wearing many hats, including those that's on this call. I found myself doing the same thing too. So what I want to know in terms of just collaborating, ongoing efforts, how are you actually doing cross collaborations between local governments? Like, for example, then over in Newark, then how are you collaborating with, let's say, East Orange? How are you collaborating with Irvington and so forth then? So what are some options or opportunities rather to be able to overall build those community partnerships overall to accomplish and achieve your goals? Ted Green, what are some of the ideas in terms of collaborating across local governments to be able to achieve some of your services and programs and so forth?
Partnerships are always important, and I'm glad you said that, because I'm very grateful, because when I walked in the door and reached out to the mayor of Newark, and we wanted to make sure that the borders in terms of policing, and Mayor Baraka and I both signed the agreement that East Orange and Newark can ride together on the South Orange Avenue borderline, because we that when crime happened, folks from East Orange would run on the Newark side, so we can't go but so far in, and cats on South Orange Avenue side would run into in East Orange. So we collaborated on, why not have cops from East Orange, cops from Newark ride in the car, so we got the cops on the borders. And I think that, and continue to be a great partnership. And we always trying to find ways in terms of connecting the dots in terms of our sister cities, right? But if you had to ask, partnerships and what you do is what moves your city. Our local mayors, our local spiritual institutions, our nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, our school district, every one of those entities have to play a role in moving the city forward. You cannot do it without that. You got to make sure that when it comes to the banks that service our community, that they are on board also, because we put our money in your banks, and when I first came in, I asked my administration to find out who's working with us. And those who wasn't working with us, then guess what? I'm going to have a meeting with you. And if you're not really working with us and trying to help our community, then I'm not putting my money in your bank, because you have to invest in us also. But I believe that you have to just collaborate. Collaboration is a key to moving government, and making sure that when you have to do shared services and find ways to save money, then you have to do that. We are pushing a lot of initiatives in terms of finding different grants that we can go after a little harder, even though we know that when you put people under the grant and that grant run out, sometimes people is out of a job. But we're making sure that when it comes to the taxpayers in our community, that we're finding ways to save money, because all of us can contest to when you have to do your budget hearings and budget years, that you're trying to just figure out to make sure that people are not losing jobs. But you have to make tough decisions in that. But I believe that collaboration, partnerships, and working together with outside resources that you have, and also that you make sure you have shared services sometimes help also.
Well said. Over to Newark.
I think the mayor talked about it pretty good in terms of our ability to collaborate with one another in terms of cities. I mean, we're talking about collaborating even on our Hope Village, our homeless kind of intervention programs that we have on the border of Newark and East Orange as well, not just policing. I think during COVID, we did a lot of collaboration. We talk frequently anyway, so we collaborate just on ideas in and of itself. But around COVID, we collaborated immensely, just making sure we all did the same kind of similar things, because people who couldn't do it in Newark wound up in East Orange or Irvington. So we made sure we had kind of unilateral policies that affected all of our cities, in one way, so that our residents couldn't go elsewhere and try to do things in another city that they couldn't do in one city, which was very helpful for us and helped us create a uniformed kind of strategy and plan to help us reduce the kind of folks that were getting COVID in our city, the amount of people that were getting COVID in our city. Also, we always collaborate because, collaboration is the key to getting these problems solved. The things are too heavy for us to lift by ourselves. So most of the things that we've done well in Newark has been based on collaboration, whether it's a public-private kind of collaboration or with the universities and the institutions in the city that help us solve and deal with some of these problems. And when we collaborate that way, we also bring in other municipalities as well. I don't think there's anything that we do that don't affect policy or activity in each other's neighboring city. If a business comes to Newark and they develop and they are offering opportunities and jobs, not just Newark residents are hired there. People in the region work at these facilities, right? So when Terminal A is developed, all of us benefit from the development of Terminal A, not just Newark and Elizabeth, but all of our cities. When business and development comes to downtown Newark, everybody in this region benefits from that. So our collective kind of development and collaboration helps our residents in a uniform kind of way.
Absolutely. Well said. It's interesting when you start thinking about it as it relates to the role that we all play and just some of the emergent themes that are coming up in terms of public engagement, public service. And I'm thinking about a course that we teach at our undergraduate level here at SPAA called Public Service as a Responsible Citizen, where we teach students to tackle challenges. You can't just simply point the finger at each other. You can't just, simply point the finger at your local officials, but what are you doing to overall tackle some of those issues? And we give the students the skill sets and the courage to get out there in their own communities to tackle problems that they're most passionate about, whether it's homelessness, whether it's poverty, whether it's hunger. But something that just comes to my mind that I'm thinking about, obviously, in terms of is housing affordability. And so my question to the panel today is, housing is a key determinant of health and safety, and one of the best ways to help your residents to secure sustainability. I want to be able to hear from you all in terms of, well, what are the necessary steps that you're actually taking in terms of addressing housing affordability, and how are you making that your top priority? So I want to go to Mayor of Orange, Dwayne Warren.
There are a number of ways that this happens, and whether it go through local ordinances or whether it go through regulations on how financing, and a lot of times it goes based on the sheer determination that the mayor and the leadership of the town are going to have affordable housing for their residents. And that's really what it comes down to in a lot of cases. But it does require us to sharpen our pencils to go to Washington or Trenton to find out where the resources are, how we qualify, and how we get the incentives in that are going to make developers build affordable housing. Developers don't move unless it's profitable, but there are certain incentives that help make it profitable, and it's our job to go and find those. And quite frankly, this university serves as the field of interest for us because we need smart people to come in to find new ways to challenge government, to find new ways to challenge developers, to find new ways to get different incentives. So we rely upon your level of service as well. But if you don't have good housing in a neighborhood, it's not going to last that long. And we've worked with our housing authority, we've worked with our housing developers to make sure that our across the board, as we build market rate housing, we also build affordable housing. And the thing that I'm focusing on in this term is home ownership for young people, and home ownership for those who traditionally only see renting as an option. But home ownership is possible for all levels of income. And we want to make sure that happens as well. Just because common sense says we have a stake in your community, you're going to make sure that community thrives even better. So that's something that we're looking at as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Over to Irvington.
Yes. So one of the things about being in government that many people don't realize is, we feel the pinch too. We have a number of constituents that we serve, and when costs go up across the board in the broader community, we feel those increased costs here in the township. You know, the food goes up, the fuel goes up, other things go up, and the city ends up paying more for it too. Our employees need, they ask for pay increases and things of that nature in order to be able to afford those increased costs. And so here in Irvington, we do a few things to assist with that. One, we had a lot of HUD programs because we get HUD dollars. HUD programs are used to build affordable housing, and we noticed that there were a lot of projects that were sitting on the table incomplete. And so one of the things that we've tried to do is push through those HUD programs, find redevelopers that can that are qualified to accept the HUD money, build the affordable housing that comes with the deed restrictions, and then sell those affordable homes to residents so that they can move in, they can pay less in taxes, and they can buy the house at a lower cost than they would ordinarily on the retail market. Another thing that we've tried to do through tax incentives is this thing called the pilots. It's a payment in lieu of taxes. It allows a redeveloper to build a more cost-effective redevelopment by lowering the cost of taxes to that redeveloper for that project. That allows them to pass those savings on to the residents by having lower rents, selling the homes at a lower cost or amount to the residents. So that's benefited them as well. And then the last thing that we've tried to do, we've worked with our housing authority that has had some financial struggles in recent years. We've forgiven some of the deficient taxes that they have in order to lower the cost for them to get back on track and become more fiscally solvent. That will allow them to secure additional HUD funds to demolish some of the older infrastructure that they have and to build new affordable housing for our seniors and some of our other indigent populations that may be on Social Security or other fixed incomes that will allow them to afford affordable housing in our housing authority. But that affordable housing will be of quality, it'll be new, it'll come with amenities, and that's all because we've worked with our housing authority to forgive some of those back delinquent taxes that they owe or sewer charges that they owe, so they can take their capital funds and not apply it to paying taxes, but rather apply it to enhancing the housing. And then the last thing that we've done is we've tried to encourage more senior housing. We noticed that our senior population has grown, and as a result of that, we don't have enough senior centers within the township of Irvington to house them. So we did, as I mentioned before, we did have that new project come online, and we have a few more senior housing projects in the queue in order to provide more housing at a lower cost so that those individuals with fixed incomes can afford to live, you know, in a quality housing for them.
Absolutely, well said. And to the participants that just joined us, welcome. I know obviously time is not on our side, especially when you have a dynamic group of 5 members joining. But for those of you that did just join, please make sure that you place any important questions that you have in the chat box feature. And then also, I just want to say too, that I have already asked today's panelists to join us during the fall semester. We're creating a series called Power Hour Series with a local official, where each one will join us for a month to talk a little bit about, in terms of their career trajectory, some of these important conversations and pieces that we're having today, but with each individual rather than as a group. So there will be other opportunities to be able to speak to this dynamic panel. So in terms of shifting the questions, I want to really use this as an opportunity in terms of career advice and some final thoughts, because obviously time is not on our side, and I do want to be able to open this up to some of our audience members. And then obviously we have a number of students that have to head over to class after free period ends at 3:50. So what advice would you give to college students interested in pursuing a career in local government? I want to head over to Hillside, Mayor Vertreese.
I think first, like I said, showing up to community events and asking questions. Don't be afraid to talk to your local elected officials, because we are, at the end of the day, public servants. You also need to understand, and I say it all the time with campaigning, it's opening up a small business every time you have to get reelected. So if you have skills and you want to know what it's like to have to create your budget, understand how being field director, that's all experience. And it's learning why these people are getting into government, what place you might fit into government, what talents and skills you bring to government, and then figuring out where you want to harness your wheels there. So I think just getting involved and talking to your local officials is one way. And then, of course, educating yourself on the form of government you have in your individual towns. I mean, there are so many people that don't even know that there are different forms of government in the state of New Jersey, that some mayors have more or less power than others. They're just, some people are mayors entitled. They're just, they're the throw out the ball kind of mayors. And then you have mayors that are on this call, which are considered executives. And so learning the difference and what those individuals can actually advise you on is also important, and how you want to fit into that paradigm.
Well said, Ted Green.
Actually, all of us are really public servants, right? Even if you're not elected, because if you live in your community, you're a public servant, right? The goal is to get involved and be a voice in your community. Start going out to your local council meetings and go and visit the mayors and go to the PTA meetings. We all become the voices of our community. I always say to young people that you don't always have to be in this seat, which we want you to, but you are your community. When you have a voice, when you see things that's wrong, feel that things that affect you or your community, be that voice, but be positive. You don't have to be a negative voice. Be that voice to say, hey, some of these things are bothering me. So if I had to give young people any advice, just get involved. Get involved. It don't matter what city you're in, what town you're in, get involved. Become that voice. Here in the city of Beach Stones, we have the mayor's engagement team. A lot of the ideas that you'll see in the Oval Park, Salvo Park, our Columbia Park, it was our young people idea, because what we did when the architect came into our community and the engineer, we brought young kids in the room and said, what you think about this park? What would you like to see in the park? So when you allow our young people to be a part of it, and young people, when we reach out to you and ask you to be a part of that voice, of that or that idea, we're expecting all you young people to do that, because y'all guys are the future. So we want y'all to have some input in the city that you live in. So we always say to the young people, don't talk about it. Let's be about it. Get involved. If it's something that you want to pursue in politics, get with your local government.
These kids, students should be doing stuff on their own campus. That's number one. Like, before you make a decision that you want to do something somewhere else, I mean, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing on your campus? Like, you have these grand ideas about what should happen in the city. How are you organizing other students and with other students on campus, period? Around campus politics, around things that affect you directly. How are you engaging there? That's where you begin. Like, that's the training ground. And I think the university obviously should have opportunities for kids to solve real world problems, to engage in issues that they think are problematic for them or their family, whether it's housing or economic development or the environmental issues, and begin to create opportunities for them to create solution-oriented ideas around how to deal with these problems while they're in college, like how to figure out how to engage these problems and present them to local elected officials, present them to boards and commissions based on things that they've developed. For example, NJIT students at NJIT helped develop the architectural concept for our Hope Villages, our villages for our homeless residents in the city of Newark. So, and we're actually using that in real life. So, in the present sense. So, that's an opportunity for kids, for young people to get engaged right now, using a space that they have to be at all of the time, right? With the support and help of professors that give them information and research to help them further the things that they want to do. Also, I mean, just educating people on the forms of government in terms of executive, legislative, and judicial branch of government. Like, what are those branches of government? What are they actually responsible for? Who can do what? A lot of times people show up at the mayor's office looking for things that the judicial branch of government has to handle or the legislative branch has to handle. People have to know, how form of government is split up in this country, in a state, in a municipality, and how to engage. And then, ultimately, I think if people are interested in running for office or holding office or any of those things, they should begin to figure out how to raise money, how to organize in their community, how to create a platform and get people to, follow or listen to their platform. All of those things are incredibly important. The last thing I would say is that in order to run any business, any entity like a large city, you have to have great people around you, a great personnel. So ultimately, how do you begin to find qualified and good people to be around? I mean, I think that's the number one problem that folks have in terms of running business or running government is employees and talent. Like, who are the people that you got around you that are helping you advance your ideas? And so it's important to get folks to realize how to pick talent, how to identify talent, and how to retain it as well.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. All right, so some questions from our audience members. And first of all, Dana Murray, thanks for joining us. So here's today's question. What is the accomplishment you are most proud of as mayor? Additionally, what is the issue that keeps you up at night? So let's go on to Mayor of Orange, Dwayne Warren.
Oh man. We were an urban center that is small and therefore forgotten about a lot. And so to get incentives and attention for people to come and want to develop in our town and to contribute to things like our library and our parks and to help our STEM school become the top in the county and what it's doing for the young people as I interact with them. That's really the most proud moment that I've had, because I see that the future is bright, that they're alert, that they're ready to take on issues in the community and be a leader for next generation. We closed the Orange Memorial Hospital in 2006, and that development site is something that keeps me up at night because it's doable. We're finally on the way to getting it done, and I just want to make sure throughout our community that we're doing the right thing with the public space, clinical space, the right kinds of housing. So that's a big project of ours that we hope to finish soon. But I'm always concerned about that. I did want to comment on people who want to be leaders. And just wanted to say, as most of my colleagues will agree, that you first have to take a vow of poverty. Don't get into this because you want to make money. Really have an idea about change and about governance, other than your own economics.
Well said. Mayor Vertreese, what is that one accomplishment that you're most proud of, and what keeps you up at night as a mayor?
It's so by action, I will say I'm proud that we got our finances in order. We didn't even have a bond rating as a township when I took office. And we are now in a position where we're able to get grants that we have been previously denied. There were agencies that didn't want to work with us, and we have fixed our finances, stabilized our taxes to the point where we have AAA bond rating now. That is, I think, my number one accomplishment, because I always wanted to know where our tax dollars were going. And once we were able to do that, in every single tax bill, we send out a breakdown of where those tax dollars go, so that people know where to ask the questions. The other thing that I'm very proud of is that I have pushed back and said no to things that were detrimental to my community. Everybody doesn't have that courage, and I've been able to make decisions that, because I said no, I've seen those decisions come back and haunt other places that said yes. And so I'm just very happy that I've stood my ground and I was confident in who I am as a leader that was elected by my people to be. What keeps me up at night? Oh, the state of the Black community, the future for my 3 Black boys, and climate change.
Well said. Irvington.
There are a couple of things we're proud of, but I'll start with our abandoned and vacant properties. When we took office, we had something in the neighborhood of about 1,600 to 1,800 properties that were either vacant, abandoned, or delinquent on taxes. People weren't living in them. They weren't maintained. And through our redevelopment and a lot of work by our Public Works Department, we've definitely strived to keep the township clean, and we've been able to turn these properties over to redevelopers so that they're developed and sold. We've had an influx of new residents in Irvington as a result of these efforts, and we've gone from, a high of 1,800 to around 250 properties now that fit within that dynamic of vacant and abandoned, and we've been able to do that over my 10 years here, and so I'm extremely proud of that. One of the things that definitely keeps me up at night is just the cost of things. The municipality, just by virtue of being government, we tend to get charged a lot more than things cost in the private sector. But then when you tack on top of that, the rising cost of fuel, materials, labor, all of those things go up, and you can't just turn to the taxpayers and ask for more money by raising their taxes. You have to find a balance between increasing revenue through non-tax means, whether that's you establish, new parking rules or something else in order to keep the city afloat, and you don't increase taxes beyond a certain amount so that your residents can continue to afford to live in the town. And you have to do all of that against the backdrop of contracts with your labor unions going up, and again, the increase of commodities and goods. So finding that balance as a municipality is always important. You always want to make people happy by providing services and improving your infrastructure while keeping all of your costs low. And I think that's probably the one thing that's the hardest and keeps me up at night.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I do have to stop here because I know a number of our panelists have other meetings that they have to attend. But I just want to stop and say, number one, thank you so much for taking out the time for your busy schedule to meet with our students and to inspire them in terms of your career trajectory, how you got to where you are today. And this is going to be one of many ongoing conversations that we're going to have at the School of Public Affairs and Administration. Trust me, I will be bugging all of our panelists coming up during the summer, where we will design a program series where you will have the opportunity as students to have an up close and personal relationship with our dynamic panel today. And you'll be able to learn a little bit more behind the scenes in terms of internship opportunities, job shadowing experiences, as well as ways in which you can become more so involved with each of the mayors, as well as our Irvington Business Administrator. On behalf of our Dean, Kai-Feng Yang, we say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us, and have a great day. This session is now done. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.